Okay guys, welcome back to part 2 of this series. Now you should have understood the major scale, where it comes from the whole half step pattern, where key signatures come from that whole half step pattern, and where the sharps and flats come from and why we have them, alright? The next part, this part here, is the final little theory part before we get into a bit more practical improvisation and things. It's called Triads. Now years ago, they decided that the first, third and the fifth note of a scale sounds great. Let me demonstrate that. If I take the C major scale and I took the first, the third and the fifth note, that's the first, skip over the second note, play the third, just the E, skip over the fourth note, and I play the fifth note, we've got 3 notes, C, E, G. Stack them all together and play them at the same time, we've got a chord. Now for the beginners and intermediate guitarists out there, you may not realise when you first learnt your chords, your C major chords, a lot of students say to me, well, I'm playing five strings at once there. Some people play 6 at once. How's that happening if there's only 3 notes? Well, if you know your notes on the fretboard, use this time, pause the video and work out your C major chord and work out each of those notes. You'll find that all of those notes within that chord are only made up of C's, E's and G's. They're just different octaves, different pitches of the same note. There won't be any more than 3 in that open position chord. So a little bit more trivia for you there. What we need to do is start building chords from the scale. Now this is the link that a lot of guitarists miss over, and it's very important. People learn their chords, people learn their scales, but they never link the two. This is where hopefully you'll improve a hell of a lot, because a lot of guitarists will skip over this theory element, alright? So bear with me, okay. We've got that first chord, which was made up of the first, third and the fifth note. First, skip over the second, third, and then finally fifth. If we do the same process, but starting on the second note of the scale, don't play a major scale from the second note. So if I start from D, don't play me D major. Continue up the C major scale, but just start on D. That's the same scale, it's the major scale, but we're starting on the note D. If we take the same principles now, the first, the third, and the fifth from D, we come up with a new chord, right? We've got D, skip that second note, play the third note, skip the fourth, and then the fifth, we play the fifth. We've got 3 notes. Sounds very different to the C major we had earlier. Now, in order to understand what are major chords and what are minor chords, I want you to look at the shape of the C major that I played here, which was drawn from the first, third and fifth. Notice the distance from the first note with my little finger here to the third note of the, well, the second note of the chord here. We have a sort of diagonal that's spread 1 fret apart. That is what we call a major third interval. It's the distance from the first note to the second note we call a major third. If we look at the second chord that we came up with, you can see now that the distance here has decreased. The notes are now closer together, although they look further apart. If you were to play them on 1 fret, that's the new interval we're playing. We're playing what's called a minor third instead of a major third. That's what separates out major chords and minor chords, is the distance. Is it a major third like this, or is it a minor third like this? What you'll see is that the first chord was a major, because that third is a major third. The second chord is a minor chord because it's made up of the root note, the first, a flat 3, and then just a fifth on the top. that way we've got a minor chord. Okay, so the two chords that we've drawn from the scale is a major chord and a minor chord. We've got C major, D minor. What's the next chord? Let me help you, just in case you're struggling out there. We start with the third note of the C major scale. Don't play E major. We start on E. But we're playing C major. We go up 2 notes, because we skip that second note, and we play the third. And then we find the fifth, and you should work out it's a B here. Those 3 notes, we play them all at the same time. Now guys, here's a test for you. Major or minor? The distance from this note to this note, is that a minor third or is that a major third? You should all be shouting at your screens, it's a minor third, alright? So we've drawn a third chord from the scale, E minor. So we've got C major, D minor, E minor. You can play them as open chords if you wanted to. It's up to you how you want to play it. Now, if you were to go through the scale, just like there's a whole and half step pattern, there's also a chord pattern. And this is what's really important, because when you get a chord progression in the future, you'll be able to link it to its scale using the puzzle system, which is in part 3. What we need to do is draw out the rest of the chords from C major, okay? The first chord was major, second chord was minor, third chord was minor. If we did the same process from the 4th note, you would get an F major. Next note would be a G major. The 6th note would be an A minor. The 7th note, let me just talk to you a little bit about the 7th, the chord starting from the 7th note of the major scale, because it's a little bit different, alright? It's a B, okay? Let's do the 1, 3, 5 process. So we go 1, let's skip the 2, and play the 3rd, which is, and then we skip the 4th, and we play the 5th. If we stack them all together, now that sounds a little bit different, or it should sound a little bit different to major and minor chords. It's because we've encountered a new chord. Now before, I told you about the major third interval. It either looks like this, which is a major third, you can see my fingers there, or it's a minor third like this. And that depends whether it's a major or minor chord. The 5th is also slightly different, because if we look at the 5th, usually it's here, but instead it's been moved down another fret. So we've got what's called a flat 5. So what we've got now is the root, a minor third, flat shape, and we've got, you could call it a minor 5th, but don't ask me why we don't, we call it a flat 5. Play them all together, we've got a new chord. I'd like you to post what you think that chord is, or if you want to know the answer, go to my website www.rexpearson.com for the answer to that, or just check out the next part because I'll tell you what it is. But do post a comment. I'd like to see if you guys are getting this, and if you've got any questions, just post them either on my website or on my YouTube page, which is Rex Pearson 1. Part 3, we're going to be looking at the puzzle system, piecing this theoretical knowledge together so that you can improvise over any chord progression. I'll see you in part 3.